this afternoon, when I saw the kind of enthusiasm and vitality of our people and the response that I was getting in Roxborough, and then I listened to Mr. Sandy and Mr. Berkeley, I asked myself, or maybe you should call the early election. But that's another story. Let me just say that this is a very serious time in the development of the PNM, and more so in the development of Tobago. And it is in that context that I want to say a very pleasant good evening. First to you as PNM brothers and sisters, but primarily as fellow Tobagonians. Because today we witness the second in our series of Protect the Tobago Heritage walkabouts and public meetings. And I want to say to you that I do not consider it, and I'm not over-exaggerating here. To me, it is not just a series of meetings. It is a crusade. Plain and simple as that, it is a crusade. It's a crusade to protect Tobago and a crusade to defend Tobago. And we're defending Tobago, and we have that responsibility to defend Tobago in the present so that we can save it for our children and our grandchildren in the future. Because I say to you, brothers and sisters of the People's National Movement, but I'm saying to you primarily as Tobagonians, if we do not do the right thing now, we will not be able to save Tobago for our children and our grandchildren. That is the reality. And as simple as that. I spent a couple of days in Trinidad recently, and I wish you all were there to understand the responsibility that our brothers and sisters in Trinidad are placing on us. And they tell us things like, Chief, don't let go. Chief, you can't give up. Chief, don't let them take Tobago, no. Chief, that is the last hope. Chief, that is the last frontier. And I'm certain that any one of you who has relatives and friends in Trinidad, any one of you associates with anybody in Trinidad, will be getting the same message from them. They will be telling you, you're seeing it with your own eyes. You're big and you have sense. And therefore, as a Tobagonian with eyes who big and have sense, I am saying you have to get involved in the crusade because this is serious business. I am saying to you that when you listen to Dr. Keith Rowley, our political leader, speak about over 3,000 public servants and contract officers losing their jobs, the people who are in the know tell you that that is only the tip of the iceberg. You know what one person described it to me as? It's a good friend of mine. He said, Orville, it's carnage. It's carnage among non-supporters of the government in Trinidad. And I tell myself, when I hear that, not in Tobago. And I'm saying to you that as you walk the streets and you listen to what is happening in Trinidad, and you see what is happening to your brothers and sisters in Trinidad, not primarily as a PNM, but as a Tobagonian, there must be one phrase that resonates from the very depth of your soul, not in Tobago. That has got to be your mantra as you move forward, not in Tobago, brothers and sisters. I'm saying to you that we have got to understand where we are as Tobagonians in 2011. And in order to do that, you have got to have an idea as to where we've come from. And I want all of us as Tobagonians to understand that we are a very fortunate people. God has blessed us with a very beautiful land. And we're not biased. It's the most beautiful land in the world. God has blessed us with that. And under this People's National Movement government over the past 10 years, and maybe We have been modest, Maybe we should have been saying the People's National Movement Assembly for 10 years, and people have understood. You recognize what they're calling the government of Trinidad and Tobago now? Not the central government anymore, no. Anytime anything positive happening, is the People's Partnership Government. Anytime anything wrong, is because of the PNM from before. That is what they're doing. And I'm saying the People's National Movement Assembly of the past 10 years has transformed this place and has embellished this beautiful land which God has given us to the point where we are today. And I don't want to go into all the details. That is why we gave you some of the information which you have on your sheets, because you will be in a position to read the information, to see that in a population of 55,000 people, the number of health centers we have, the number of playing fields, the number of hard courts, the number of schools, and you would recognize that when you look at the ratio, that we in Tobago are better off than most other land masses in the world. That's the reality. But I'm certain that any one of us who has had something looking good, has something attractive, would recognize one thing about it. Whether it's a car, whether it's a house, whether it's a bicycle, whether it's a partner, once they're looking good, somebody else is going to want it. That's a reality. That is life. And I'm saying that Tobago can't be looking good and people don't want to take it from Tobagonians. And we as Tobagonians have got to understand that. So that a lot of people who are coming around Tobago, they're not doing it out of love. They're doing it because they want something in Tobago. They want to take over Tobago. They want to share in the wealth. They want to share in the beauty. And I'm saying they have a right to do so. But we as Tobagonians must understand that it cannot be done at the expense of our dignity and our pride and our respect. And that is the point that we're making. And I'm saying that if one observes what is happening in Trinidad as we speak, one will understand that if we allow this People's Partnership Government, and by People's Partnership Government, I mean the UNC-led coalition, including the COP and the Tobago Organization of the People. They cannot disassociate themselves from the atrocities. You cannot have a situation where, when the positive thing happens, you are People's Partnership. And when the atrocities are being brought to the fore, you sneak away and slink away and try to pretend you are TOP. You are a party. You are a party to everything that they do, positive or negative. And I'm saying to us as Tobagonians that we've got to understand the signals that they are sending from the other side of the pond. The signals that they are sending from the other side of the pond is that they respect nothing, they respect nobody, they have no respect for the law, they have no respect for the truth, and they will do anything as long as they achieve their objectives. I am saying to you that in those circumstances, there is one phrase, not in Tobago. And that is the phrase that has to resonate with you, all of you. And you see, sometimes I am a teacher. And one of the things I recognize is that, you ever hear your parents tell you, don't fool around and mess around with bad company? Because when you mess around with bad company, the bad habits just pick up. That is what is happening to them, Look what is happening in Tobago with these people. And I want to draw your attention to a couple bad behavior, bad habits. Pick up from their friends in Trinidad and want to bring their bad habits in Tobago. Not in Tobago. Let me tell you the latest. Mr. Berkeley will have mentioned the situation with the light poles in Keene and Bonaccord. And there are a number of lessons that we as Tobagonians have got to understand from that. Because you see, what is happening in Keene and Bonaccord as we speak is an indication of what is going to happen in Tobago if we do not tell those people not in Tobago. Listen to me. My wife is in the back there, and she wouldn't encourage me in telling lies. And we were driving along, and we saw them cutting down the trees and so on and so forth. And she asked me, what's going on? I didn't know. So I started asking questions. I asked the secretary. I asked the thing. And then the talk started to come out. Tiantec made a decision that they're going to put high tension poles for high tension wires between, I think it's Pigeon Point and some other point. They consulted nobody except one body. And that one body was the representative from the area, Mr. Rolly Kwaku. But let me tell you about the duplicity and the dishonesty of this man. I spoke to the secretary. I said, Secretary, were you consulted? No. Was your administrator consulted? No. I said, this is serious business. Start to make some calls. The secretary spoke to Mr. McIntosh, and the secretary is here, and he would not encourage me in telling lies either. The secretary spoke to Mr. McIntosh. Mr. McIntosh apologized to the secretary and confirmed that Mr. Rolly Kwaku was in fact informed. So that the only person who had an opportunity to know what was happening and doing something about it as a representative was Mr. Rolly Kwaku. But here the other part of the story. One of the challenges that we have as the Tobago House of Assembly is that for the first time in over 30 years, the Tobago House of Assembly does not have a representative on the Tiantec board. So it means, therefore, that decisions are made by the Tiantec board that affect the people of Tobago, and the Tobago House of Assembly that represents the people of Tobago has no representative. But listen to this individual. The individual called Mr. Rolly Kwaku, I understand, because somebody called me, is on Channel 5 this evening. Go on there, put on the pious face and the innocent look, and gone in the people and them lying to school children and telling school children that if the chief secretary allowed that something like that to happen, then God help Tobago. Well, when I hear that, I say it's a good thing not a PNM anymore. I cannot understand why a big man who is supposed to be a person of honor and trust, an individual who has been placed in this position, cannot simply say, yes, I was consulted. Yes, I was not totally aware of the circumstances. I am sorry and I will try to redress the situation. This big, tall man going to go in the people and them school to tell lie on himself and the chief secretary. Now, that is somebody representing you, but I am saying that is the nature of the partnership. Because what is happening in Tobago is an indication of what is happening in Trinidad.